Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to our evening tonight with Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor. I'm very glad to see all of you. Let's start as I always start every gathering, which is to take 2 or 3 minutes in silence, sitting, feeling your feet on the floor, your butt in the chair, and arriving in every moment so that your mind and your body can be in the same place. Your mind and your body in the same place. Yeah. So if you haven't already looked around where you are in physical space, you can take a look around, take something in, an object, even if it's a pencil, a wall, a ceiling, a chair, part of a floor, just so that you know you're not traveling around in an airport, but you actually are where you are here now. Yeah. And becoming aware of your breath. The gravity that holds us and the breath that breathes us. Yes, good. All right. So, again, welcome to our evening with Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor. She is a Harvard trained and published neuroanatomist. I'm reading this so I get all of the words right here. In 1996, she experienced a severe hemorrhage in the left hemisphere of her brain, causing her to lose ability to walk, talk, read, write, or recall any of her life. Her memoir, My Stroke of Insight, documenting her experience with stroke and her 8-year recovery, spent 63 weeks on the New York Times nonfiction bestseller list and is still routinely the #1 book about stroke on Amazon. I am very excited to be talking with Jill. I went back to my bookshelf in these last couple of weeks and I pulled out her first book. This is the book, by the way, we're going to be talking about tonight, Whole Brain Living. This is her new book, and we'll talk much more about that during our conversation. I pulled out the hardback copy that I first bought of her book when it was first published, and I was entranced with her book, which is part of the reason that I'm thrilled to be talking to her, because she documents her recovery, but also she speaks about there's one paragraph, in the absence of my left hemisphere's analytical judgment, I was completely entranced by the feelings of tranquility, safety, blessedness, euphoria, and omniscience. A piece of me yearned to be released completely from the captivity of this physical form, which throbbed with pain, but providentially, in spite of the attraction of this temptation, something inside of me remained committed to the task of orchestrating my rescue, and it persevered to ultimately save my life. What I was entranced with when I read this book was the question of living in that place that Jill talks about in her book without having to have a stroke to do that. That's what I wanted. I wanted, of course, and I think that's probably what we all want, is to feel and have access to that kind of euphoria, that kind of peace, that kind of bliss that is actually possible for us to have without, although for her to document it so precisely and beautifully, being the neuroanatomist she was and is, was a gift to all of us. So that's what first got me entranced and interested in Jill Bolte Taylor. And then I read her new book, and I will introduce her in a second, but I want to read a paragraph from the very beginning of that book that says, "Who are we? We are the life force power of the universe with manual dexterity and two cognitive minds. We have the power to choose moment by moment who and what we want to be in the world. Right here, right now, I can step into the consciousness of my right hemisphere where we are. I am the life force power of the universe. I am the life force power of the 50 trillion beautiful molecular geniuses that make up my form at one with all that is." The paragraph goes on, or I can choose to step into the consciousness of my left hemisphere where I become a single individual, a solid, separate from the flow and separate from you. These are the we inside of me. Which would you choose? Which do you choose and when? I believe that the more time we spend choosing to run the deep inner peace circuitry of our right hemisphere, the more peace we will project into the world and the more peaceful our planet will be. And I thought that was an idea worth spreading. So welcome, Dr.
Thank you.
Jill Bolte Taylor. What beautiful work you've done. And what a pleasure to talk to
Thank
you.
you, Geneen.
Now, oh yeah, there you are. You got frozen for a second. And your screen is it's a little slow, but let's continue and hope that it fixes itself.
Okay.
All right?
Yes, I came inside. I came inside because I thought that would make a better connection.
Uh-huh. Yes. So let's see. Hopefully that will. And that does. So it turns out, Jill, that my deep yearning to live in that place that you talked about in whole brain living, you speak about that. And you speak about the 4 parts of the brain and how we usually think there are only 2 parts. So do you want to catch us up from when you wrote My Stroke of Insight to now and let us know what you've been doing, thinking, being?
Thank you. Perfect. So, after I delivered the TED Talk and had the book go out into the world, My Stroke of Insight, I had literally over 300,000 people write me and say, "How do I find that bliss? I want that without having a stroke," just as you said.
Guess I wasn't
And I did.
original then.
Well, everybody wanted it, and it was like I didn't have an answer for that. I found my way from my right brain back into a functional left brain, but I didn't know how to walk people back into the right brain. And then I was giving a presentation a few years ago, and I said, I love presenting to audiences now about the brain because people love to hear about the brain, and they even know terminology. They know about the amygdala, and they know about the hippocampus, and they know about alarm, alarm, alert, alert. But the fact of the matter is that we have 2 amygdala. And in that instant, there was literally an audible gasp in the room. And I thought to myself, that's the secret. People don't realize that we have 2 emotional systems and two thinking brains. We think we have two thinking brains, but we only have one emotional system. And
Mm.
because of that conflict, emotional conflict doesn't make any sense, because how can I be in conflict if I'm only one thing? I have to have two things with opposing views and opposing values and opposing ways of being in order to have the conflict. And that was the key for me to write this new book, Whole Brain Living, whole brain. So I have a model of a brain, and the right hemisphere is a machine that is right here, right now. And right here, right now, right brain, easy to remember, has an amygdala and a hippocampus and an anterior cingulate gyrus, the emotion of the present moment, just the present moment. And then we have thinking tissue of the present moment. So in the left hemisphere, we have an amygdala and a hippocampus, as well as an anterior cingulate gyrus for the emotion of the past and the future, and thinking related with a past and a future. It's all about the external world. So this hemisphere, our left brain, spans time. It's our methodical, logical, analytical thinking. But there's also a small group of cells back here that defines the boundaries of where I begin and where I end. So I know that this is me, but these glasses are not me, because I have a group of cells in my left brain that says I'm an individual and I have a past and I have a future and I can relate to the external world. The right hemisphere doesn't have that. So in the consciousness of the right hemisphere, when you have people come together and become quiet for the first few moments and to focus on something in the present moment and to focus on breath, brings them outside of the definition of themselves. And there's peace there, because there's no reason to not have peace. The universe exists in a state of peacefulness, but our left brain, in its thinking and its emotions, as they relate to our pain from the past and our fear and of the unknown in the future, brings us discomfort, and that's where our suffering comes in.
Right. So that's what meditation is about. And that's what teachers mean when they say, be in this moment, ground in this moment. And so with your stroke, what happened was that
Left,
right, yes,
left,
yes.
left, right. Correct. Exactly.
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 Yes. So that what was left for you was that feeling of bliss and euphoria, because the past and the future didn't exist anymore.
I knew nothing. I lost all my academia. I lost all my relationships. I lost all my relationship with the external world in every way. I did not know what a mother was, much less know who my mother was. I knew nothing.
Yeah.
And that was in the absence of the details related to me, Jill Bolte Taylor, as defined by that group of cells. And when they went offline, Jill Bolte Taylor didn't exist anymore. And her academics was gone, her relationships were gone, her life was gone. And I shifted into experiencing myself to be atoms and molecules in space, mingled with all the atoms and molecules of the space. I had none of the emotions from the past or fear of the future, and I was in blissful euphoria. So you're absolutely right. That is what we do. We quiet that left hemisphere when we pray, when we meditate, when we perform mantra, and when we walk in nature and we allow ourselves to bring our minds into the present moment. And it's beautiful in the present moment.
Right. Right. So then it's just all those pesky thoughts of the
Well,
past and future that, just create suffering, it sounds like.
exactly. That's absolutely right. We worry, and the left hemisphere. It's a beautiful tool, but it is designed. First of all, the emotional character, the emotion of the left brain. This information comes in from the present moment up through the sensory systems and goes immediately into that left emotional as well as that right emotional group of cells. So that's our sympathetic alarm, alarm, alert, alert. Oh my gosh, I got to save myself from anything that I perceive as a threat. And the right hemisphere is looking in the present moment and saying, that bus is aiming for me. I need to jump out of the way in the present moment.
Yes.
But the left hemisphere is bringing information in and it's saying, when I was 5 years old, which was like, 55 years ago, I was riding my bike and that kind of a dog was nipping at my heels trying to bite me. And so now, 55 years later, I see a dog like that. And the information from the present moment, I see the dog, goes in, and that group of cells compares my present moment to everything I ever experienced in my past. And it says, oh no, that's a bad dog. That's a bad dog. That dog wants to bite me. That dog wants to hurt me. No, I'm not safe. I have to get away. And so it's designed to save our life. So it's good in that way. But the left hemisphere has language. And the thing about that thinking tissue of our left brain is you give it two pieces of data and it's going to start weaving a story. And it
Right.
just makes up stuff. And 99.9% of what it says to us isn't true. But we believe it because we rationalize and we become analytical and we try to convince ourselves by linear thinking, and we make up all kinds of stuff. And that's when we start suffering because we've got all these horrible possibilities. And part of those possibilities are I'm not good, I'm
Yeah.
not worthy, I'm not enough.
Right. Right. So then,
No, honey, left.
yes. No, yes, I got it. I got it that it's left. I got it. But what I
I'm
want to
teasing you.
know is how, and this is part of what your book is about, how
Right.
do we then, in terms of neuroanatomy,
Yes.
live um, cognizant of what the left brain can do,
Yes.
but not its slave, because it seems to me
Yes.
that many of us are are its slave.
Yes.
Many of us are chained to the stories, and we don't even realize they're stories. We take a situation, we weave a story around it, and then we believe the story, and then we suffer because we're telling ourselves the story. So
Exactly.
how do we then, without having a stroke, because boy, you
Yes.
sure went through a lot of rehab and
Yeah.
but
8
thank
years.
goodness, because that's been a gift to all of us,
Yeah.
as the 26 million people who have seen your TED talk know.
Thank you.
But
Yeah.
um how do we, in your language,
Yes.
work through or understand that we're just making stuff up? You talk about four
Yes.
characters in
Yes.
your new book.
Yes. So the ultimate goal for anybody has been to how do I get to that peace? Well, so then we have some experts who have experienced that peace come in and say, okay, well, let's meditate. And what is meditate? Meditate means I'm going to bring my mind into the present moment and I'm going to silence my left brain. Well, we all know that the left brain is very chatty, and the more you try to get it to be quiet, the more it has to say about that, right? It doesn't want to be silenced. And it doesn't want to be silenced because that's that group of cells defining me, the individual, which is my ego. Well, the whole universe revolves around me, my ego. So I don't want to put my ego down. That's like death. right? It feels like, no, no, no. And you can hear the brain going, no, I don't want to be quiet. And it's like, so in my opinion, being quiet's not the issue. But so where are we going? It helps if you know where are we going. So I look at the brain and I say, we're talking anatomy, right? Let's forget about psychology. Let's forget about everything else that we've ever thought about. Forget religion and theology. Forget all that and just look at the anatomy of the brain. And when I was a normal person, relatively speaking, before my stroke, and then I wiped out my left hemisphere. So what did I lose? I lost my left thinking tissue. And a part of that is the definition of my body. Where do I begin and where I end? Because I lost that, I lost me, the individual. I lost my ego. And I lost language. And part of language is my ability to say, I am an individual. I am Jill Bolte Taylor. And here's all the data of my life. And this is all my education and all the things I know. And it's just packed filled with all those details, and more details about those details. So I think that's all very important, because isn't that who I am? Well, it's a part of who I am. So that's my left thinking character. And I call that character 1, only because I'm going to go left thinking, character 1, left emotion, character 2, right emotion, character 3, and right thinking, character 4. So we have these 4 characters based on the skill sets that are exhibited by those parts of the brain. So we have to remember the brain is nothing except a bunch of cells, and the cells are communicating with other cells in circuits. So my ability to perceive myself as boundaried is a group of cells. Wipe those out, I don't have that perception. My ability to create sound, dog is a sound. Wipe out those cells, I can't speak anymore. Aphasia with a stroke. The ability to place meaning on that sound. So this is our thinking tissue that is related to the external world. It knows what my name is. It knows all the details. It's my A-type personality. It likes to create order in the external world. It likes to control everything, people, places, things, including time. It knows that if I'm going to have a podcast, I got to stick my glasses on. I got to find my ear pods, and hopefully my ear pods are where they belong, or this part of my brain's not going to be very happy with me. So we all know that part of ourselves. You know that part of yourself, Geneen?
Yes.
Okay. Exactly. So that's character 1. And I encourage people, get to know your 4 characters, because when you know the 4 characters and you give them an identification, I encourage people to name your 4 characters, because it's an identity inside of yourself. And when you get to know the skill sets, and so I'll keep going, but when you know the 4 characters, then you can pick and choose at any moment which of those 4 characters you want to be. And that's how you get into those other characters, because you know what they are, who they are, what they like to do, who likes to hang out with them, who doesn't like to hang out with them, and how much time do you actually want to spend being each of these characters for a whole brain living and a balanced life. So character number 1 is
let me just ask you a question. So you really think it's a matter of choice then?
In an instant.
Okay.
In an instant. We have so much more power over we have ever been taught. And the problem is we haven't had a roadmap. We don't know where we're going. I can help you get there.
Right. And that's what you're doing in whole brain living.
That's right. That's exactly right. And that's the ultimate goal of the evolution of humanity. If you look at our brain, the ultimate goal is that the thinking tissue connects and is integrated with the emotional tissue below. The thinking tissue gets integrated, and the emotion tissue gets integrated, so that we have the power to choose moment by moment who and how we want to be. That is the power of what we are as human beings. And that is our ability to have total personal freedom.
So if I'm feeling you know, you mentioned that thing about controlling and let's just say organized. Isn't that character one?
That's
Organized?
character one. That's
Yes.
character one.
Right. But then I feel like, oh, I would just really like to relax and be present in this moment, stop thinking. So then we're talking about are we
Character
talking
three.
about right brain emotion?
Right brain emotion. It depends. So let me keep going
All
linearly
right. Okay.
because
Yes.
we can.
Keep going.
Okay. Okay. Character number two is me, the individual. So it's about me. And it is all of my pain from the past. So whatever, if it's that dog I recognize that's snipping at my heels, or it was I got lost in a grocery store and I felt abandoned by my mother, and I just felt horrible. And now, that circuitry, it's still a part of who I am. And this is a part of me that is my discontent, fearful, unhappy part of me. But it's not just the negative emotions, it's also positive emotions, but emotions that are dependent on the external circumstances. So let's say I'm happy today because the sun is shining, and I love it when the sun is shining, and so it's a good day. But it wasn't such a good day today, Geneen, because it was rainy, and I didn't want it to be rainy because I couldn't go and play and I couldn't do the things that I wanted to do. So I was unhappy because of my external circumstances. So my happiness is dependent. My happiness, me, the individual, is dependent on external circumstances. Okay. Character number three is the emotion of the present moment. Well, in the present moment, it's not about me, the individual. I am atoms and molecules blended with the atoms and molecules of the universe. So I'm having an experience. It is experiential information. Now, it's still got an amygdala and a hippocampus, and it's an adrenaline junkie. It's kind of like, yeah, I want to go like bungee jump, or go jump in the lake and feel the water pressure against my face, or come on, Geneen, let's go play. And it's collective. It's not just me, the individual, it's me in relation to all of humanity. So this is the part of us that is very friendly, very social. It's very creative and artistic because it's the left hemisphere that is defining what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad. To the right hemisphere, it's like, yeah, let's just color, right? Let's and I don't want to color in the lines because I want my body to be bigger or whatever, and I want to paint those leaves blue instead of green. And the left hemisphere comes in and says, Jill, that's not right. You got to do it. Green leaves are green, and it's like in your life, yes, leaves are green, but in the present moment, it's like I love the color of her shirt. I'm going to make them that color. So the character three is very experiential. Character four is the thinking tissue of that right brain. And that is as big as the universe. It is clear of emotion. It is a pure love, a pure experience of gratitude for my life, for everything that I have. It's not about what I don't have, and I want more of what I don't have, and therefore I'm not happy because I don't have what I want. But instead, it's like, wow, I am so filled with gratitude for the love I feel in my heart, for the love of people, for nature, for the eyes that I have, for the feet that I have, for the voice that I have, for the critters swimming around in the water here. It's just a sense of love and gratitude. So what we do with meditation and prayer is we quiet the left hemisphere. We bring our minds into the present moment of that character three, character four, and we focus on a sense of gratitude for what we have. And we can get to know each of these identities, each of these characters, and then we have the ability moment by moment. It's like, well, I want to go be a four right now. So I'm going to go paddleboard, and I'm going to go be with God, and I'm going to go be filled with gratitude for all that I have. Or I'm going to go be playful, and I want to go call my friend, and we're going to go for a hike or go jump in the lake. Or I might be miserable and unhappy, and I might call my friend because I need to be loved. Or I might be ready to go to work and get my to-do list done.
Right. So the left brain is the to-do list.
Character 1, left thinking.
Right. Right.
Left.
Yeah, I know. I keep saying right, but you keep saying left. Okay, I'm gonna have to use a different word. Like, okay, yeah,
Correct.
I'm.
Come on, correct. I'm teasing you.
I know you are. Boy, I just thought this, and of course, I haven't thought this before. But wow, your life would have really been different if that stroke was in the other side.
Oh, that's
Oh
exactly
my
right.
God!
Yes. In fact, that's exactly right. And I have received so many emails from people who have either had wiped out their right hemisphere or caregivers. And what happens is I get two complaints from the survivors. They say to me, Dr. Jill, I can't find God. I can't find God. I'm just stuck in all these details, and I routinize, and I'm kind of hostile and negative and critical because I'm judging everything, and it's just no fun anymore because I can't find that bigger experience of playful in the character 3. That's our joy and our playful, or 3, and then our character 4 is our love and our gratitude. And so it would be a completely, relatively speaking, I'm so glad I had the stroke where I had the stroke.
Yes, yes. But then if you're, see, I didn't say right.
Neuroplasticity
I'm
happening in
learning
action.
that brain can really learn well and quickly. So,
Love it. Good for you.
but in terms of your new book,
Yes.
so do you then counsel them, and really would be counseling anybody who would have a let's just call it an overdeveloped right
Left.
brain with um no, left.
Oh, left.
Anyway, do
Yes.
you counsel people then, as you talk about, to develop the other characters? Like, what do you say to somebody who either has had a stroke,
Yes.
that has wiped out their
Yes.
God function, gratitude function, either that or else somebody who feels anxious and you
Absolutely.
so what do you say then?
Well, I encourage them to do exactly what you did, which is learn. And the beauty of the brain is that it's these beautiful cells, and the action of learning is cells creating new connections with other cells. That is the neuroplasticity of the brain. And we are creating up to 1.8 million new synaptic connections per second.
Wow.
So, as quickly as your brain learned after I teased you a couple of times, and you notice I teased you with joy, and the brain wants to learn when there's joy. It's no fun to learn when it's no fun, right? But it's easy to learn when it's fun. And so your brain said, this girl, she's kind of crazy. So, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I got it. Then you got it, right? And so, boom, your brain has instantaneously rewired itself for the process of learning, which is why, as we age, it is so important that we keep bringing new stimulation in, and we train ourselves to learn new skill sets, because that's what's keeping those brain cells active and alive and abundant with new stimulation and new connection, new possibilities. So what do I say to them is, here's the brain, here's the anatomy. And what you did was you've wiped out a part of your character 3. You can't identify with that part of you. And these are the things that those cells do. So just like we can train a child how to learn new material, or we can help a person who has a left brain stroke recover language, or recover become less paralyzed on the right side of their body. We can retrain different cells to take over functions in order to regain new abilities. So that's where you go. You start with what you have. You start
Right.
with what you have, and then you build on top of what you have.
Right. So let's just say somebody is beginning a spiritual path
Yeah.
now, and you would be talking to them about the different quadrants of the brain,
Yeah.
and you would encourage them to appreciate the left brain, appreciate
Yes.
what it can do, of course,
Yes.
uh,
Absolutely.
but feed, so to speak, the gratitude, the joy, the love, the expansion. Is that what you would do?
So what I do is exactly what I do in the book. What I do is I say, I want you to get to know each of those, thank you, each of the four characters: whole brain living, the anatomy of choice, and the four characters that drive our life. That's the title of the book. And that's what you will learn. When I know when I'm in my character one, I can recognize that part of myself. And I have a whole chapter on character one. And then at the end of that is worksheets. And I ask you to, do you recognize this part of you? Well, most of us recognize that part of ourselves. And then I ask, under what circumstances does this part of you come out? Where does this part of you come out? Well, mine comes out in the office. It comes out in front of the computer. It comes out when I'm on the telephone doing business. And then I ask, who likes this part of you? And then you start thinking about who is the personal network of your character one. And that's going to be probably a different network than your playful character three. When you want to do a job, you probably call someone different than when you want to go play,
Right.
right? Or if you're in your character two and you're feeling sadness and you need to be loved and supported, then that person also has their network who you would call for support. Well, the
Yes.
same thing's true for your character four. Who resonates? Who brings out this part of you? This is our nurturing, our supporting, our all loving, this is our grace and our gratitude. This is the bigger picture of who we are. What do you know about that part of yourself? Give that character a name. Where does this part tend to come out? How do you feed this part of you? Do you watch certain podcasts? Do you hook into certain shows on YouTube? What do you do? How do you fuel and nurture this part of yourself? And then you pay attention to what does it feel like inside of your body when you're being that character. And then it's like, wow, okay, well, right now I want to go be my four. I know who she is. I know what she feels like. I know where to go in my brain.
So, you check into your body. Part of this is body sensing. So you check into
Absolutely.
your body. Let's just say character four. Does your character four have a name?
I call mine Queen because she's big as the universe, and Toad because she's a little goofy and I live on a boat half a year, which is kind of my lily pad. So
Uh-huh.
mine's Queen Toad.
So
I
your
know.
Queen Toad. Great. And so good. Queen Toad. I love
Queen
that.
Toad.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. What's not to love about Queen Toad?
So when you want to hook into that expansiveness, that bigness of the universe, then you're saying that's a choice and you know what to do and you know where to go. And
Oh yeah.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. So and the thing about character four is that character four is always there. They're all always there, available for us to tune into. And throughout the course of a typical 5 minutes, we probably dance through at least two or three of them, right? They're constantly, and you're talking to one person and you're being a ratty little character two. Why didn't you do this? And then the phone rings and it's like, hello. and now you're in character one being your professional self. And then it's like, oh, but it turns out that it's your pal who wants to take you hiking. And it's like, and then you become your little happy character three. And, I mean, we are constantly bouncing in and out of these four characters. So what I'm encouraging people to do is recognize that we are anatomically wired at the level of our brains, at the level of our cells, to have each of these four characters. And when we get to know what those groups of cells do, we get to know their character profiles. My little unhappy self that knows how to be resentful or feel guilt or feel unempowered is a very different character than my boss who's going to work to be busy. Very completely different personalities. So we each have all four of them. We get to know them. We probably know them inside of ourselves. And then we start recognizing these four, not just in ourselves, but in everybody we interact with. Because my four characters are always available to interact with your four characters, which means in every relationship, there's really 8 of us.
Right. Right. So if my character 3 comes out, which is the joy,
Yes.
and that comes out, and you're in your, I don't like this, I want this, I'm not, and will that likely bring out your character 3?
So it depends. It depends on how evolved I am in being able to get into my four characters by choice. And the thing about these brain cells is that they're just cells in circuits. And the thing about cells and circuits is that the more often you run a cellular circuit, the stronger that specific circuit becomes. And then it begins to run on automatic. And it can become our automatic reactivity. So let me give you a little example. So I had an invitation to give a podcast interview, and I thought the guy's name was Dave. And I said, "Dear Dave, thanks so much for the invitation. I look forward to learning more about it." And so he writes me back and he says, "Oh, Dr. Taylor, we're so happy you said yes." And he signs it Robert, parentheses, not yet Dave. And I realized, oh my gosh, my character 1 screwed completely up. I called him by the wrong name. My character 2 is going, well, I could feel embarrassment, but my character 3, she's so strong, she just started cracking up. I thought it was the funniest thing in the world. And I thought, what a great example of how the more we train ourselves, we get to choose what we want our automatic reactivity to look like.
That is really beautiful, because what that says to me is that so many of us have default patterns that have been grooved over the years in our brains, and many of those patterns are negative patterns. So many of those patterns are left brain patterns, I would say, are one of those.
Right.
So, but what you're saying is that we can then train or practice by continually running, let's just say in neuroanatomy language, running the program of joy or gratitude or expansiveness, like the Queen, so that those become our default patterns.
Absolutely correct. Now, isn't that beautiful?
It is beautiful.
Yeah.
It is.
And that's why, everybody's doing what? Affirmations first thing in the morning. Well, why would I do affirmations first thing in the morning? Because what it's doing is it is triggering my character 3 or my character 4. It's shifting me into running the dominant programs of my right accepting and loving and communally based thinking, as opposed to me, the individual, and I'm tired, I don't want to wake up, I'm going to push that snooze button and leave me alone.
Right.
And then at night, before I go to sleep, and really periodically throughout the day. Why would I run affirmations? What am I doing? I'm occupying the circuitry of my character one thinking, and I'm saying, life is beautiful and I am happy, but I'm running it in the language of that character one. And so it's now busy. It's not busy doing my to-do list. It's not thinking about a million things. It's running, life is beautiful and I'm happy, I'm alive. And then the emotion that comes into that is the experiential. What does it feel like in my body when I truly say, life is beautiful and I am grateful I'm alive? I move into that experiential of that right hemisphere. So all the tools that we're using to shift out of that left character 1 and 2 into the present moment of our characters 3 and 4 by choice. And we can train ourselves to just instantaneously access those characters when we know what we're going to be.
Yeah, so that's beautiful. So that in many ways does answer that question that I started out with how do we access what, or at least part of what you accessed
Right.
when you
Yes.
had the stroke? How do we do that consciously and by choice in our daily
Yes.
lives?
Yes.
Yes. And it's by
Yes.
choosing what we pay attention to. Yes?
Yes.
Is
Because they all,
that a way of saying
yes.
that?
Yes, because each of these 4 characters have different values. They care about different things. They emote or feel different things, or they think different things. So if you're going to focus on the external world and your to-do list and all the things you got to get done, and you feel a sense of urgency, then you're fueling the circuitry of that character 1.
Yes.
But if you decide that you're going to pause, and in this moment you're going to take a big deep breath, and the beauty of the breath is that the breath is in the present moment, which is why we always focus on the breath. And then we can, there are different things that we've been trained to do in how to shift ourselves out of the left brain thinking patterns into the expansiveness of the present moment. But the next thing, once we know who these 4 characters are, then you have to ask yourself, inside of your own head, Geneen, what's the relationship like between those 4 characters? And the left brain is all about judgment, and it likes to critically analyze. And part of that is analyzing and being critical of self or of others or of those other characters in my own right hemisphere.
Right.
And so let's say, yeah, let's say my mother is very left brain thinking, and she gets it done, right? She's a strong character 1. Well, I'm a playful little girl, right? I like slopping around in the mud, and I like playing, and I like making a mess, and I'm creative and musical and artistic. And my mother's looking at me going, child, you waste a whole lot of time, and she doesn't value my creative little character 3. So I learned that my little character 3 is a waste of time. So then as I age and I grow up and I mature, in order to adopt the social norm of my family, my character 1 comes online and says, no, Jill, you can't go play tennis. We're busy. That's a waste of time. That's going to take 2 hours out of our day. And no, we're busy. We've got to get these things done. And so the relationship inside of my own head, what is the relationship like between each of these 4 characters? And learning to value each of them equally allows them to become our brain team. And then they need to be able to communicate with one another. And there's a technique that I use that I call the brain huddle. And that's when all the brain parts come online and they're in communication. And that's when we move into truly conscious living.
So in the brain huddle, they talk to each other.
In the brain huddle, they do. So I call it BRAIN, is the acronym, of course, BRAIN. I'm obsessed. So B stands for breath. Okay, so and now any of the four characters at any moment in time can call a brain huddle. And I encourage people to do the brain huddle in the beginning for 20 or 30 times a day so that you learn how to do it quickly. So that if that unhappy little part of ourselves starts moving into its unhappy, it knows it can call a huddle, because that's when we really need the huddle, right? So at any moment in time, whatever character I'm in, 20 or 30 times a day, call the huddle, huddle, huddle. Everybody knows huddle. And what breath, it's the first thing we do when we're born. It's the last thing we do before we pass. And it's like a train on a track, and it's constant, and it's in the present moment. And when we bring our minds to our breath, we can increase the amplitude, we can increase the frequency, we can mess with our breath in the present moment. So when you had people come in and say, focus on something, focus on your breath, focus on something in your space, bring your mind to the present moment, what I do is I start fluctuating the frequency of my breath, or the amplitude, the depth of my breath. So B stands for breath. Bring your mind to the present moment. It's like huddle, huddle, everybody, everybody. It's like huddle. R stands for recognize. Which of the four characters was I when I called the huddle? Which of my four characters called the huddle? And BRA stands for appreciate the fact that there's four of us in here. There's always four of us. We're always here. And I stands for inquire. Okay, based on the immediate circumstances, which should we be in the next moment? And then N stands for navigate, moment by moment by moment. And you can call a huddle and call a huddle and call a huddle. And it's a magnificent tool that when you train yourself at any moment in time, you then have the power to choose which of these four options is my best choice. And boy, I can tell you, if we live just by that, a lot of people get in a whole lot of trouble with their character too, because if I'm going to come in and I'm going to pick a fight with you, and then you have the choice of, okay, am I going to get into my two and tit for tat with her, and we're going to just do rah, 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 rah. There's never a resolution between two twos. Somebody has to be willing to get out of their two and come in as a different character. So getting to know each of these four characters, getting to know how to call them all into a huddle, and being able then to navigate the rest of your life in a conscious way, to me, that's like total personal freedom.
That sounds exactly like freedom, exactly what it is. Beautiful. And people can find out about this in Jill's fabulous book, Whole Brain Living. Can find out all about this in Whole Brain Living. We're coming to a close. I want to thank you so much, Jill. This has been so just enlightening and informative and beautiful. All those things. All those.
Thank you. Well, I've been listening, Geneen, to several of your podcasts, and I knew that you would really resonate with this, because as I listened to how you picture things, to me, all this really does then is you have so many answers, and now this just lands it in the structure of the brain, making it hopefully easier and more solidified for people to figure out how to find their own peace.
Yes, yes. There are, there are so many different words for parts of ourselves. And, what you've done is really, really elucidated the parts of our brain, and the different characters of the parts of our brain, so that we can be clearer about them and have choice about them. So it's beautiful. Thank you, Jill.
Right.
I want to give a moment for anybody who wants to write in the chat. Anything that you want to say, please, this is the time to do it. Yes.
Oh, this is important. I don't understand the value of character 2. It is not. Character 2 brings information in about the present moment, and it says, I'm going to compare it to everything I've ever experienced. Give me a reason to push away and say no in order so that I can protect myself based on the learning I have done throughout my past. So it is critically important. However, it is also a price that we pay in order to have that level of safety.
Yes, good. Yes, thank you, Jill.
Thank
And
you.
so we're going to end with our ending song. We play it most of the time, but not all the time, but this seems like a very sweet time to play it. So we can all get into our character 3. You'll tell me, Jill, whether this is a character 3 song or 4.
Go in peace, go in kindness, go in love, go in faith. Leave the day behind us. Day is done. Go in grace. Let us go into the dark, not afraid, not alone. Let us hope by some good pleasure safely to arrive at home. Let us hope by some good pleasure safely to arrive at home.
Beautiful.
Yes, Sam Baker, go in peace. So, Jill, thank you so much. Such a joy. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you for being part of this. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Geneen.
Bye,
Thanks,
Jill.
Geneen.